around him. I think he's going to be I think he's a great coach, personally. I really enjoyed my year with him. And then obviously my dad's been with him for 3 years, and he would say the same things if you asked him. So really, really top-notch person and coach.
What did he introduce to the offense today? Anything specific he brought us to this?
That first year, I think it was great because he had a relationship with Andy Dalton, and some of the quarterback footwork was new for me. He had done things a little bit differently, so that was really fun to get to hear about that process and how effective it had been for Andy late in his career. So that was probably one thing I could point out for you.
Ryan, let's talk about his interview, wanting to bring in this obviously the class has a lot of very young talent. What are you looking for in this class to bring in and add to this team that isn't already there?
Yeah, I think there's an element of explosiveness, of speed that we can add that would help us. This is a really fun class of players, really from the top part of the class all the way down to the bottom. There's going to be good receivers, I think you'll find, that'll come off the board in the second, third, and fourth rounds that I think will be contributors for some teams. So it's a deep class. There's really a lot of variations of player. There's guys that are good with the ball in their hands. There's guys that are really fast. There's guys that are big and strong. So there's a good mix of talent that fits. And when you're building the receiver room, you're trying to collect a little bit of all of those things. And so it's a fun class to evaluate, and hopefully we can find a couple guys that fit us.
You talked about how the scouts had new offensive philosophy. Scouts kind of had to go back and take a different look at guys and maybe looking for something a little different to fit what's going on now. How much can you, as the coaches, have input into that in terms of what you're telling them what to look at?
Oh, it's a huge part of the process in educating what we're looking for, and I think Rand might have mentioned it. I've mentioned it once or twice before, but when you set up these position criterias and you set up these profile tapes of what you're looking for, it gives those guys a clear vision into what they are out scouting for. So when they're on the road, when our pro scouts are looking at free agents, it gives everybody a pretty clear avenue of what we're looking for, and I think that that's our job as coaches, is to help inform that. And then it's their job as evaluators to evaluate it. And there's going to be times where we love a guy and maybe the evaluation side feels a little differently. And so our job is always going to be to make sure we have those conversations and determine which player fits us best. But our job as coaches is to point them in the right direction.
Ryan, do you see any similarities between Jamar Chase in Cincinnati and Treylon Burks now in Tennessee?
It would be really hard for me to compare Jamar to anybody but Jamar. He's sort of his own animal, if you will. He's incredibly talented. There's not many receivers like him in football. So to compare anybody to him, I think, would be unfair. I do like some of the traits that Treylon has shown on tape. There's some things that I'm excited to work with. And then he's got to do his part when it comes down to taking care of yourself and making sure he's ready to roll when we start. But talented player and one that's got some development to go. I would say Jamar's development is in a whole different stratosphere. He didn't need a whole lot of it. But again, I'm excited about what Treylon could bring for us once he comes in the building.
Where do you think you are with
Team speed, you can never have enough of it. So we'll be looking for plenty of it. I think we need to be faster. We need to be more explosive. That's always going to be part of it. And you always want to have a good mix. You're going to have guys that can win in the physical battles, in the 50-50 balls, in the contested catch range. But you also need guys that can stretch the field and threaten the defense. And those are things that we'll be looking for, obviously, in the free agency and draft process coming up.
You have mentioned Derrick Henry, how no offense would not want a guy like that in their scheme.
Right.
Where are you as far as running back you value?
That whole conversation, yeah, I mean, you want guys that can carry the ball, you want guys that can protect, and you want guys that can be dynamic out of the backfield. Sometimes that's one player, sometimes that's three. I think what's happening is that division of labor has been divided up amongst that room. So you're getting 2 and 3 guys that are contributing more than maybe just one guy all the time. And so I don't think there's a devaluation of the running back position. I think the division of labor has been separated a little more. So that's probably the best way to say that. You have to have good backs. There's really no way around it. Obviously, there's a positional spending that goes with that, but to have good running backs, ones that can protect, ones that can win routes in the pass game, can catch, ones that are explosive, and then you got to have guys too that sometimes when you need 2 yards, they're going to pound for 2 yards and make it hard on a defense to tackle them. So I don't devalue the running back position. I know how valuable it is. You just have to have a lot of different types of them ultimately when you're building that room for your team.
What allowed you? Were you able to get in contact with Jericho?
Yeah, it's he's I've reached out. I know Jo's reached out as well. But he's going through. He was at the Pro Bowl. I didn't want to bother him. There's a lot of stuff going on, Super Bowl. But I think that there's a great relationship with him and the organization that I know that he's always going to have the Titans in his heart. So whatever that looks like moving forward, we'll keep working through it. But I know what he means to the city and to the team, and I'm looking forward to getting to know him. Yeah, Colt is a really young, kind of dynamic special teams coach. Be his first time running the room, but doesn't lack experience. Played for 8 years in the league. He's a fantastic person. Love having him in the building. Obviously, he's one of the few guys that I've worked with for the last couple of years out of Cincinnati, so that part's been great. But really, really sharp, experienced in the special teams world. And then you add him with Anthony Levine. Those two guys battled against each other quite a bit as players, and so there's a mutual respect there. It's been kind of fun to hear them talk about their battles, but really excited about Colt's addition to our staff. And then, the last thing we have is our strength coach, which we'll jump into after the combine here. We'll start that process next week and hopefully have it wrapped up by mid-March, I would hope. So the most important part is they got to be here for the start of the offseason program and get their program in place. So hopefully that gets done here pretty quickly.
Would you like being your dad's boss?
We start the offseason program.
April 8th. Yep.
What's it like being your dad's boss?
It's no different than being anybody's boss, to be honest. It's been great. Him and I get along really well. There's not a whole lot of bossing around, if you will. There's not many people that are going to tell him how to do his job. He's about as good at it as anybody. So, but it's been really fun for me. It's been a dream come true to be able to sit and have a cup of coffee with my dad in the morning and talk about what we got coming up that day and talk about pass protection and technique and watch him do his job too has been really fun. I've never had a chance to do that. In that element where I'm in the building with him every day, so it's been really, really, really cool for me to experience that. It's been awesome.
At what point in your life or your career did you and your dad talk about working together?
When early on in my career, when I was first starting out, he had made a very pointed emphasis that I should try my own way and not work for him. He never wanted to be one to give me a job. He felt like it would serve me better if I had went my own direction and earned my way through it. I think that was the best advice he's probably given me. It's worked out great that way. I've always wanted to work with him. Never knew if I'd have an opportunity, to be honest. It's one of those things when you got guys under contract and we're in different places. Never knew if it was going to work. And we had a conversation really the year previous when I was interviewing for a couple of jobs, and he had said that we wouldn't work together, that he was very happy where he was at and didn't really want to leave and felt like I should do that on my own. But it just timed up great. It's kind of where he's at in his career. The opportunity to have him come to Tennessee is really, the timing was perfect. I didn't really know if he wanted to come or not until I got the job, because I was kind of working off the assumption that he was that way last year where he wasn't interested. So, but thrilled to have him and be able to work with him every day. Nothing's easy when you're in those situations, but thankfully I think it was such a unique situation for him and I, and in the league in general. It hasn't happened ever before, so I'm appreciative of Cleveland willing to work through that with us. I'm sure obviously they didn't want to let him go either, and he was under contract. They didn't have to, so appreciative of them understanding and knowing the uniqueness of the situation. But that part's been, nothing's easy in the NFL when you're under contract.
How do you weigh his ability to raise the game of guys versus the need for maybe a premier talented left tackle?
I'll say this: you can never replace elite talent. You can coach guys. Coaching makes an impact. It matters. But ultimately, the better players you have, the better coach you are. And so, I will never pass up on elite talent just because I think we have a great coach. Great coaches with elite talent is special, and so we're trying to get to that point. But I will say there is times when you can take players, though, as in roles that, maybe not necessarily at the top of the draft or for top dollar in free agency, but where you can develop players quickly and they can contribute for you. Because as we all know, you're going to have multiple sets of players playing up front. Very rarely do you stay with the same five for the course of a season. So that development and that depth is always going to be really important. And there's nobody better at developing it than him.